The Assassin's Creed series has had us globetrotting through history since its debut in 2007. From Renaissance Italy to ancient Greece, Ubisoft's open world series has explored a wonderful variety of locations and settings, ensuring that each conspiracy-packed game is a semi-educational window into the past. Such an approach has made the series unique among its genre's stablemates, which tend to whisk us away to fantasy lands or sprawling modern-day metropolises. While the bones of Assassin's Creed has mostly remained the same across its 14 mainline entries, the series has undergone a lot of changes over the years, including new takes on player progression and ever-expanding worlds. But which Assassin's Creed games are the best of the bunch? It's a tough decision. After much deliberation and only a handful of arguments though, we've eventually agreed on the top 10 mainline entries in the series. So without further ado, here is IGN's top 10 Assassin's Creed games. Assassin's Creed Revelations wrapped up Altair's and Ezio's stories, and despite some unremarkable additions like the Den Defense mode, it was a memorable and thrilling send-off. From flying down zip lines in Constantinople to hanging out with Leonardo da Vinci, Revelations was packed full of fascinating adventures. Ezio and Altair's final chapter was, in a way, both a sign of things to come and a celebration of what came before. Not only did we get one final fling with these two after seeing them grow and learn from lives full of adventure, but we had a chance to say goodbye to the first era of Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed games are often as defined by their locations as they are by their protagonist, and Syndicate's 19th century Victorian London in the throes of industrialization may be the most memorable of the bunch. Sneaking around factories, racing horse-drawn carriages down the street, and even fighting Jack the Ripper all ground Syndicate in a setting that, while still fantastical, feels real. Contributing to this sense of place is the string-heavy score from Journey composer Austin Wintory that doesn't sound like anything else in the series before or after. Dueling protagonists Jacob and Evie Fry even have their own soundtracks. It's a small touch, but it's one in a string of small touches that makes Syndicate's world cohesive. Also, it's hard to recall any game this side of Bloodborne that lets you fight this effectively with a cane. Assassin's Creed Valhalla didn't reinvent the wheel like Origins did, but it did make some pretty substantial changes to the series' RPG formula. Combat became weightier and more impactful than ever. Traditional side quests were replaced with spontaneous world events, which made exploration and discovery feel more organic. And the absurd amount of loot you'd have to organize and sift through was toned down substantially, making rewards feel more valuable on the whole. Eivor may not be our favorite of the Assassin's Creed protagonists, but her or his story is an engaging one and one of the best blendings of historical fantasy and mythology that the series has ever seen. Fans of Norse mythology are treated with a feast. Not only do the sagas play a major role within the main campaign, but an entire game-length expansion set in the world of Thor and Odin practically turns Valhalla into a cousin of God of War. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood continues the story of Ezio Auditore da Firenze, cementing him as a fan-favorite protagonist for the series. It trades the diverse locations of Assassin's Creed 2 for an expanded version of Rome and its surrounding countryside, and builds on the new mechanics introduced in AC2, swimming, property management, firearms, and recruitable allies. This chapter of Ezio's story is filled with charm, wit, and drama, and thanks to its updated combat, we got to be the aggressive combat assassin we always wanted to be. It was also the first game in the series to introduce multiplayer, allowing players to step into the shoes of the Templars to see who among their friends truly was the best assassin or hunter. It may not have advanced the formula as much as its predecessor, but it's still cherished by many as one of the very best. Origins marked a turning point in the series. It was the game that turned Assassin's Creed from a stealth-focused action RPG into a straight-up open-world RPG with a size and scope rivaled only by very few games. But even setting the historical significance of Assassin's Creed Origins aside, it's important to note that it's just a damn good Assassin's Creed game. Its central story involving Bayek and Aya, who initially set out to find justice for their murdered son and ultimately wind up founding the order that would eventually become the Assassin's Brotherhood, is extremely compelling. The world of ancient Egypt is a marvel to explore, and while many facets of its mechanics were improved in later games, the shift to loot-based progression and a more action RPG style of combat was just the kind of shot in the arm that the series needed to reinvigorate it in the eyes of fans. After the tipsy sway of Black Flag's pirate protagonist Edward Kenway, Assassin's Creed Unity was a return to the tone of original Assassin's Creed. As the first AC game to be exclusively released on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, alongside PC of course, Assassin's Creed Unity was a graphical powerhouse for its time and boasted enormous crowds of NPCs, but its launch was a bit of a bumpy ride. The cavalcade of bugs, glitches, and an intensely overburdened map led some to flee the game, but those that stuck with it found a great setting in revolutionary France, newly enhanced movement options that made scaling down the side of a building much easier and fun, and multifaceted assassination missions. And frankly, seeing Notre Dame in all its glory makes AC Unity well worth the price of admission. Feudal Japan is the most requested setting for an Assassin's Creed game of all time, and so Ubisoft faced towering expectations when it finally decided to visit the Sengoku period. Thankfully, Assassin's Creed Shadows was exactly what the series needed. It brings the focus back to assassinations, putting increased emphasis on stealth and infiltration. And while still expansive, the open world and RPG elements are more restrained than those in Odyssey and Valhalla, resulting in a tighter, more balanced experience. For the first time since Syndicate, Shadows features two playable protagonists. Naoe's toolkit is rooted in stealth, while Yasuke is a brutal fighter who captures the period's samurai fantasy. While Shadows is best experienced from a mix of both perspectives, taking control of Naoe and making use of her grappling hook and climbing abilities allows you the full freedom to explore what is undoubtedly the series' most astonishing world, complete with landscapes that dynamically change with the shifting seasons. Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes Origin's combat style and a newfound focus on role-playing, adds some extra ingredients to the mix, then sets it all against the sprawling backdrop of ancient Greece, aflame with a war between Athens and Sparta. It's an enormous, vibrant game with some of the most stunning vistas we've seen in the series, both at land and sea. Naval warfare returns here, and it's wonderful. The new spin on Assassin's Creed's notoriety system sees you hunted across these environments in a series of cat-and-mouse chases that are the most tense in any AC game to date, while the nation struggle system sees you fighting large-scale battles in the name of Athens or Sparta. It's also got a relatively compelling story for a game that can take 60-odd hours to beat, with some eccentric side quests fronted by a genuinely charismatic protagonist, whether you play as Alexios or Cassandra. Even after you finish Odyssey, there's still so much to plunder and discover, and it's a delight to simply exist in its world. In many ways, we have Assassin's Creed 2 to thank for not only proving the formula works, but for also giving us the defining analogy of a video game sequel fulfilling the promise of its underwhelming original. Though later entries would add even more depth, Assassin's Creed 2 made assassination missions more dynamic, with increased flexibility in how you approached objectives, more options for hiding or causing distractions, better combat, and better mobility with the ability to actually swim. New catacomb missions let players put their parkour skills to the test. The upgradable home-based villa gave players a reason to keep investing in picking up collectibles and coins, and new weapons and gear from everyone's favorite video game character, Leonardo da Vinci, kept gameplay fresh. All of these changes were also connected to a beautifully realized Italian Renaissance era that introduced an all-time protagonist, Ezio Auditore da Firenze, and meaningful additions to the current-day story that brought the two time periods together in the wildest way possible. I mean, you fistfight the Pope only to have an otherworldly deity speak through Ezio to Desmond in the present day. It was an unforgettable ending to an entry that proved how incredible Assassin's Creed could be. Oh, and it's got one of the weirdest video game references of all time.
It's a me, Mario!
After a long run of assassin protagonists, Black Flag tried something different, introducing us to a main character who was a pirate first and an assassin second, and the ensuing adventure thrived because of it. It introduced a massively entertaining sandbox playground in the Caribbean, featuring a plethora of islands teeming with treasure and activities to embark upon, and an upgrade system that made the idea of hunting wild animals and harpooning something other than a chore. Instead of relegating the idea of sailing as means to an end, it built upon the framework of Assassin's Creed 3's naval combat to make nautical adventures the shining point of Black Flag. Whether it was hunting the hapless merchant ships or bracing against some of the toughest buccaneers ever to sail the seas, attacking other ships cemented itself as something too good to pass up anytime one floated by on screen. Aided by its impressive seamless transition from land to sea, it allowed the freedom of choice for players to either sail circles around enemy ships while blasting them to pieces, or ramming head-on to leap onto the enemy ship before unloading a brace of pistols like a whirling dervish. Not only did Black Flag cement itself as one of the greatest in the series, it's easily become one of the best pirate games to immerse yourself in as well. And there you have it. Those are IGN's top Assassin's Creed games. Disagree with the ranking? Think another entry should have been on the list? Let us know what you think of it all in the comments below, and for much, much more on the world of Assassin's Creed, stick with IGN.
街中で小便した時のあのばあさんの驚きをときたら